Fantasy managers, hello and welcome back to the FPL Addicts preview podcast for game week 18. Today it's the three amigos back at it again, and I wish you could all see Reedy dancing there to the music. I could see him at the bottom of my screen. He was jamming out. It's early in the UK for him, but he's right up and ready for it today, as we all are. So Reedy, I will ask you how you're doing. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, all very good, mate. Enjoying that little music, little wake up sort of call for me there, if you like. And yeah, I'm doing very well. Sort of looking forward to the next game week, albeit a very depleted one. But yeah, we move, don't we? How are you doing?
I must apologise, lads, because I got Reedy up 3 hours ago at 6 a.m. for the initial timing of the podcast, and then I told him to go back to bed because we weren't ready for him. So my apologies, Reedy. I hope you're feeling all right, mate.
Yeah, do you know what? I could be doing this with one eye open, so don't, you're lucky, really. So yeah, like I say, Al, thanks for checking in on me. I'm doing well. And how about you, fellas?
Yeah, doing well, mate. It's obviously going to be a very interesting game week, so we'll get into it because there's a lot to discuss this week, and obviously we will go back towards the game week 17 first. But obviously, as always, if you can, drop us a like and subscribe to the YouTube. All the sort of information is down below. And if you can, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify podcast, because it really does help us out and we really do appreciate it. But I'll bring up my share screen now and we can go back to the games of game week 17, albeit there wasn't as many as we thought there was going to be played. There ended up being, I think it was 7 fixtures in the end. So only 3 got postponed. There's significantly less this week. But Jack, was there a fixture that really stood out for you? And I think I know the one which one of you two are going to pick.
Oh, it's got to be the obvious one, hasn't it? So goes to Manchester City and Leeds. 2 of my favourite teams, obviously, Leeds and City. But yeah, City gave them a good scene too. 7 goals in there. A couple of players coming back in and showing what they're made of. Obviously, it was difficult for a lot of us fantasy managers because Bernardo Silva was the only one that didn't get on the score sheet and didn't contribute coming off at half time. Definitely going to be whinging about this throughout the pod, I reckon. But yeah, 7-0. Kevin De Bruyne, 2 beautiful goals, his second one in particular. What a finish that was. And we saw the return of a bit of form from Jack Grealish in there as well as a couple of defensive assets getting on the score sheet. And Riyad Mahrez, I think, was the other one. So yeah, it was a City absolutely smashing Leeds. Leeds didn't have an answer, and it's that expansive football from Bielsa, which not really helping. I'm sure he's still struggling with a few injuries as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they've been hit fairly hard this season, I think. But, he always does come under a little bit of scrutiny, when they do get a fairly heavy defeat. I remember it was similar when, your team, Man United, beat them last season, Jack. And I think, it's probably a fair assessment. You can't just set up the same way every single game. Otherwise, you're probably going to end up getting embarrassed, like the 2 times that they have been by the 2 Manchester clubs. Isn't that right?
Yeah, he's spot on. Obviously, United have put a few past them over the period. I mean, first game of the season, obviously we overhauled them then as well. And Bielsa just doesn't change. He hasn't got that plan B. And even though everyone wants attractive football and attacking football, expansive football all the time, I think you've got to be able to, park the bus sometimes and just and stop. Goal difference is going to be a massive one, especially if Leeds are finding themselves down there for the season. This could be a big one for them if they, it doesn't go their way.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening to you, FPL Planner. He's just joined in the live comments and he said there, hope you're doing well. I think he had a fairly decent week and your rank is still sitting very, very brilliant. And hello to you as well, Quentin. Lovely for you two to be joining us this evening. Reedy, I think I know which game you're going to pick now that Jack's taken that one. So you might as well rip the Band-Aid off and, make me suffer for, the 5 or 10 minutes that you want to talk about it.
What's that? Brighton v Wolves?
think it was.
Yeah, of course. No, it's it's going to be that Liverpool Newcastle game, the final fixture to finish that sort of game week, and it didn't fail to deliver the usuals. Got the sort of goals and chipped in. We saw Diego Jota get that sort of. What I was going to say, is it sort of debatable, if you like, should it have stood and all this sort of stuff. Similar one with the Arsenal against United. Something's happened in the box and the ref's not blue. Plays continued and there's been a goal. So Diego Jota, and then that man Mo Salah, he just does it every week, doesn't he? What can we say about the guy? We expect it now on a weekly basis for him to get an assist or a goal. So yeah, that guy scored as well, and then the little sort of matter of Trent Alexander-Arnold popping up with an absolute. I don't even know. I was going to say Razzler then, and thought, no, wait a minute, Dan Capello, he'd be kicking me for that. There'd be no chance. I could be calling it a Razzler, but it was a rocket, mate. You're absolutely right. Banger, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it was just unreal. Don't forget that man Jojo Shelvey, former Liverpool player. He did chip in with a goal for Newcastle early on, which I think surprised people. But the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Fabinho, and Curtis Jones were ruled out with COVID. So still a good game though. I feel like it probably should have been more, to be honest with you. No offense to yourself, Al. But yeah, 3-1, nice and easy. FPL assets delivering. There we go.
Yeah,
sorry, Al. Whose goal was better, Kevin De Bruyne, Trent, or Shelvey?
Oh, it's not Shelvey's. Shelvey's can already be eliminated from the three. Unfortunately, you're naming the caliber of players there, De Bruyne and Trent, and Shelvey's managed to sneak his way in there, which is good. But I think for me personally, probably just De Bruyne's goal. I think.
What? Come on, Al. A bit of bias there, wasn't it? Because it was against his own team. But if you look at it, right, this is not to kind of be biased myself, but you look at De Bruyne's goal, it wasn't in the top corner. It was more the speed that kind of did Meslier or whatever, whereas Trent's was more in the corner side. I mean, Mike Dean did play a part in it, don't get me wrong. No, he did blindside the keeper by jumping out in front of him or out of the way or whatever. But come on. What do you think, Jack? So we got 1-1 there. What are you going to say, Jack?
Oh, I like De Bruyne. De Bruyne's was good. I did enjoy that. I thought just the speed, just how hard he hit it. Was crazy. Like the speed, like you said, I know Trent's was probably better placed, but De Bruyne's was just so fast. It was unstoppable.
Trent's was further out as well, though. Don't forget. Yeah. It's each their own, though, boys. Listen, they were both great goals, so we all have our likes and dislikes, and I think De Bruyne's. Listen, I can't argue that it was a top goal still. So, yeah, good debate there.
Yeah, absolutely was.
Planner agrees. Top shelf from Shelvey. I agree. It was a good finish.
Come on, Shelvey.
I mean, Alisson was, he had cement boots on, didn't he? Didn't even bother to dive. I think the swerve beat him. So maybe we're disrespecting Shelvey a little bit too much there. But what you were saying, Reedy, about the first goal, I think there's a lot of expectation these days that if a player is going to go down, the ref's just going to blow the whistle. And I'm always of the belief that if it's not a head injury, the attacking team have always got the right to play on. I know if Newcastle were on a break and there was a player down, I would definitely want us to keep playing unless they were severely hurt. And
I think what comes kind of into it, Al, only to touch on it briefly because we don't want to harp on about this sort of subject, all the time. But when this sort of thing happens, for me personally, although Liverpool gained the advantage and we got a goal, I would like to see the refs throw a bit more caution to it and actually blow up. I know that sounds boring, but listen, the ref couldn't see. He didn't know if it was a head I can't even get the words out. Head injury, I should say. But a DJ in there, God see. Head injury or not, he should have just blown up, and it would have stopped this whole reviewing it after the game, analysing it. Should he or shouldn't he? And I just think the referees can help themselves a bit. So just to save any mistakes, aggro, whatever, blame, the ref, just blow up. If it's head injury, we get the medics on. If it's not, we move on.
And you can see Chris Reed refereeing the under-8s this weekend. taking all the shit from the
I tell you what, though. Boys. 3 of us at times could probably do a better job than a referee does in the Prem at times. So it is very debatable. But listen, those under-8s, I'm sorry, Jack. I'm busy this weekend, mate. So unfortunately, we're going to have to organise something else. Love it.
Too good. And obviously there was that tackle on Fraser as well from Trent Alexander-Arnold, but as you've said, Reedy, we do need to move on because we're not just here to dissect the games. We're here to talk about the upcoming game week and how much of a shambles it's probably going to end up being. So I will go through the mini leagues ever so quickly. I'll bring the paid league standings up on the screen just now, and there's been only one change to the top 3, and it's that man Tom Stones breaking into 3rd. Geordie Wilson still sits in 2nd with Donald Breslin up top. In terms of manager of the week, the paid manager for game week 16, the 8-person playoff that we had, it did end up being that man Tom Stones. He got an 81-point haul, and he was the 3rd manager of the week award for him this season. So he's already, if there were trophies for these like player of the month, he's already got a fair big collection. With that trophy from last season, and he's sitting quite nicely at the minute with a fair bit of cash in his pocket. So fair play to you there, Tom. And then Daniel Nelson this week, for game week 17, manages to get himself the manager of the week with 82 points, and he obviously gets that 20 Aussie dollar prize. So Jack, Tom Stones is he's definitely stealing a living at the minute, isn't he? His 3rd one of the season. We're not even halfway through the season at this point.
That's it. We're going into game week 18 here to the halfway point, and he's taken out 4 awards in total, adding to his trophy cabinet from last year. He's well and truly back. He said he was a bit surprised winning this week because he didn't realise he won the playoff. He obviously got the highest score of this week to take out that victory of the 8 players. Did Chris Reed in there as well. So yeah, it was well done, Tom, and he's smashing it. It's like I said, you can't keep up with this guy. Desmond Tutu's in 3rd place. He's backing himself up from last year, and that's not easy to do. So yeah, every credit.
Yeah, and 73 points in this game week as well from Tom is absolutely ridiculous. So, fair play to you, mate. And, hopefully you don't win too many more of those awards this season. I'm sure Reedy's, not too happy that he's lost out. But if you're going to lose out to anyone, it's probably going to be Tom because he is brilliant at this game. In terms of the free mini, we are in the presence of the highest ranked in the free mini then, if FPL Planner is still here, which I believe he is. He still sits at the top nearly with 1,200 points. He's only 6 points short of that. Donald Breslin sits there in 2nd as well, and there's been a couple of changes there with the sort of top towards 8, which are all fairly high scores. They're both all in the higher end of the 1,100, so they're doing absolutely brilliant in this free mini league this season. So hats off to everyone there. And I say it every week to FPL Planner, but you've got to make sure you get yourself in that paid league for next season.
100%. Ellen, just on that, to get 88 out of this week, so the last game week is ridiculous. He's doubled my score there. People in that top 10 in that free one, then I think there was only a couple of people who made it out into the 60s. So I think him coming out of that with 88 is absurd.
Yeah, it really well and truly is. In terms of the women's mini, just as FPL Planner says he will do there, he's probably licking his lips watching this, looking at all the other scores in the paid league compared to his in the free and thinking, right, I can definitely, profit from this next season. So it'll be brilliant to see you get involved with that for next season. In terms of the women's mini, Thashi sits there in top with Karen Spence in 2nd, and Patricia sits there in 3rd. And Maya has dropped out of the top 3 for, she was been up there for quite a bit of time this season. I think she's sat in 2nd quite comfortably for a fair bit. So, it's good to see there's been a couple of changes there in the women's mini league there. So again, there's a lot of people in there that should be in the paid league as well. So they've got to make sure that they're getting themselves in there for next season. In terms of the bonus bank and FPL Addicts head-to-head mini, Donald Breslin sits there in top. He's gone 6 points clear of Pizza Boy this weekend, who's sitting there in 2nd. 42 points for Donald and 36 for Pizza Boy. I'm slowly slipping down the league here, boys. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been talking myself up a little bit too much, I think. And, I'm actually matching up against a couple of hard opponents these days. So, Ollie and Reedy. Reedy's only 2 wins away from me, and Ollie pretty much the same. So, do you fancy yourself to catch me this season, Reedy, in this league?
I've said it a few times, mate. You were sat there, near the top or end of the table, gloating away, looking down on us, pretty much rubbing your foot in it. But listen, as we all have alluded to in the past, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think, at some points, I'm not saying it's me that's going to do it, but I think at some point, mate, you're going to be overtaken. It's a tough one, isn't it? When you do have these easy games, you win them, you grab the point, you see yourself moving up. It's quite nice. But then, as you say, there are some hard games and some top players that you come up against, the likes of those top four there, Donal, Ali, Simon, and the main man, Tom Stones.
Top caliber of players in this league, isn't there? Just listing those names off there really shows how competitive it's going to be in the end. And Ozspike says he's happy with equal second. That's not in this league, is it? No, because Pizza Boy's sitting there in second. Oh well, I guess.
No, he's equal. Yeah, on points.
Equal second, third, equal second on without goal difference or points, whatever you want to call it. So we'll pay that. We'll pay that for sure. For all the inside information that you've given us, for all the cancellations of games. So if you hear anything about Brighton and how they're doing, Ozspike, make sure you let us know a little bit of our secret information, and we can share it with the community, because we are very out of the loop at the minute as just regular football fans and FPL players. But boys, we'll move on to our teams from last week now, and obviously the scores weren't going to be too big this week, other than Reedy, who we will get on into just a little bit. But for myself, I did manage to get above the average, but unfortunately with the 4-point hit that I did take, which I know Reedy's very proud of me for taking, just popped me below to 44 points for this game week, which was fairly hard done by for me, I think, because that man there on the left of my screen, Kufau, managed to get himself a red card for what was a fairly fair tackle. I thought it was a harsh red card for him. It was a little bit high, but I thought he played the ball. He wasn't too malicious, so I thought it was quite harsh for him there. And obviously he's going to be suspended for even longer now, because West Ham's game has been postponed for the weekend. So I'm really not too sure what to do with him. But we'll touch on transfers in just a little bit. Trent, obviously, with that 11-point haul. If Shelby, didn't score that goal, I'm sure he would have, managed to get himself a 17-point haul. So it's a shame that he didn't get that in terms of FPL, but I was happy to see, Newcastle go 1-0 up. But Trent's just inevitable. He's a premium midfielder. I think he's the most expensive defender that the game has ever seen. He's at 8.2 million these days. So that's just absolutely ridiculous. Alonso managed to get himself a fairly scummy clean sheet. He managed to get subbed off on the 64th minute. So he managed to get the clean sheet points locked in, which I was very happy with, because obviously Everton did equalise late on. Livramento, unfortunately, was booked and also conceded 2, so he didn't manage to get me any points this week. Captain Mohamed Salah, it was a fairly standard choice. I think, a lot of people might have captained Trent this week, which is probably good to see, or maybe Jota, just to go for something a little bit different. I was going to stick the vice on Trent just in case Salah didn't play, but I didn't end up doing it in the end. But it didn't really matter. Him and Jota were the only two midfielders that returned for me. And then Antonio, obviously, there wasn't much doing from him as well. And on the bench, it was fairly slim pickings for me, but 44 points to keep ticking along. I didn't fall too far behind the pack. I took a small red arrow, but it's going to be interesting to see how this week goes, but we'll obviously touch on that in a little bit. But Jack, we'll move on to your team now. 46 points for you, no hits taken. Take us through your team.
Yeah, obviously did a bit messed up last week, taking a few more transfer hits than what I wanted, and then going into this week, made another boohoo and messed up with my captain pick. So I think I don't know when we did the pod, and then the next day, just busy with work, sorted my team out, and I took a bit of advice from Ellie. Went, put your vice captain on someone else just in case, from another club, because we were talking about the Trent, as Elle just alluded to then. So I was going to go Bernardo and then captain Salah. So when I moved my captain or my vice captain to Bernardo, it went over, but then my captain moved to Ronaldo from Salah. So I must have pressed captain first and then vice captain maybe. God knows. But then after that, got distracted, totally forgot about it. So then going into the game week, went, oh my goodness, I've captain Ronaldo. And then Bernardo played and did absolutely nothing, came on at half time and got me 2 points. So I've had an absolute stinker there. And that obviously affected my points haul. Team obviously didn't do too good, apart from I brought Mountain instead of Rashford. So he kind of saved me there and got me those points just to stay above L, which was nice. Alexander-Arnold did what he did. The Arsenal double-up was nice. Salah obviously got decent points as well, thank goodness. So, yeah, just above the average. Nothing to get excited about, but I've made a mistake there, and I've paid for it with quite a few points there and fallen a bit behind Reedy, which hurts me more than most.
Yeah, it happens to us, at least once a season or so, we make some sort of muck up like that. So, I was saying to you before we went on air that, the vice on Bernardo was a very good pick. And, we couldn't believe that with 7 goals from City, Jack, he didn't manage to get chimed in with at least one of them. Even for the time he was on the pitch, he didn't even manage to,
What is
get
that about?
anything.
Yeah. Absolutely spewing with that. I couldn't, to be looking at that score check, kind of checked in half asleep when I was watching a bit of the game. I was like, what? 7-0? I'm like, oh. What was it, 4-0, 3 or 4-0 at half time? Checked it. I was like, Bernardo, he's gone off. And he has not contributed anything. It was, I think he's letting players around him step up now. Now, obviously, he's doing so well. All the other players have stepped up, and De Bruyne coming back in, stepped up big time, delivered. So, yeah, infuriating. Just one of them things, in it. It's good old FPL, hitting it, like striking. So, but like I said, made a mistake on that and paid for it with a few points there. Missed out on 8 points with Salah.
Yeah, you obviously got the clean sheet from Diaz as well there. So I'm sure you were fairly happy with that. But really, 71 points for you this week, but you did take a -8. And I'm fairly certain that on the podcast last week, you said you would be taking no more than a -4. And me and Jack said you'd be taking a -8.
100% he did.
Things change, boys. Come on. We're living in 2021, eh? Come on, we've got COVID, we've got games being postponed every week, people getting ill, or players getting ill, I should say. Listen, it's a fancy Premier League. If we all did what we said, it'd be no fun, would it? Come on, Jack said he's never going to take it or anything. He took a -12 the other week.
I never said that. Show me
I
never take hits.
Listen, you're making stuff into me about taking hits. Elliot as well, Mr. Rollovers, changed his tune these days. It happens. And all right, yeah, fair enough. You've got me on that one. I did obviously say that. And I decided, no, listen, I'm going to go against it. And I did change my mind. You know what, though? Even though I said that, it worked out. It worked out well. It paid off. The 3 transfers that I brought in, Kieran Tierney, Mason Mount, and Ollie Watkins. So I think they got me a combined total of 26 points. So, of course, the 20 plus 22 there on me. No, sorry. Plus 18 on me -8, I should say. Get me maths right. But, so the hitman's still here. He never went away, did he? So, yeah, Gaeta still basically didn't play. Something out, hurt his finger in the car door or whatever he did. I don't really know. But he was sat on the Crystal Palace bench for some reason, picking his nose while Jack Butland was in between the sticks. And then you had Kieran Tierney, clean sheet for Arsenal for me. Got a little cheeky bonus point to help with that. Trent, as we know, little 11 for us there. Very nice. James, wow. Now, I know you guys aren't James owners, but for me, I brought this guy in, like a few FPL managers I kind of did, after his haul, thinking, right, he's going to continue that run. And it didn't happen. He had a few zeros over the last few weeks, I think. So it's nice to see him basically get that assist against Everton, albeit that they didn't actually keep that clean sheet, which would have been even sweeter. But he got his assist. He got his bonus points as well, which was good. Livramento, what can we say about that one? He was an absolute gem at the beginning of the season. So cheap. Fancy managers were raving about him. And over the last few weeks, Southampton's heads have fell off a little bit. So, yeah, as we know, conceded 2 and got a naughty little yellow there. Gallagher, nothing from him this game week. Salah stuck the captain on him, went with the crowd. I think it was about 5 million managers that captain did. So he got his goal. Everyone was probably expecting more than that, but it is what it is. Jota with his goal, Mount with his goal, and Bernardo. We know about Bernardo, as Jack's just mentioned there. The man who's expected to probably get on any of a game or day or whatever in a score like that for City. You expect him to get double digit. But, of course, injury or potential injury scare was the reason he got brought off. So 1 point for him, for my team. And then Ollie Watkins brought him in. And he delivered against Norwich with an assist and a goal, which was absolutely brilliant, really, because strikers at the moment, it's gone back to being, with the games being called off anyway, to being literally a handful to pick from. So Ollie Watkins, it was nice to see him do that for me. So yeah, boys, I'm happy with that, albeit it was a -8. I had Brozier on my bench. He got 12 points, of course. He would have took the impact of the hit. So if I'd have put him first instead of Liverer, I'd have been laughing about that. But it wasn't to be. So 71, technically 63. We go again.
Yeah, and I just want to ask you about the one, Reedy, because I made a similar mistake the other week where I put Rafinha as second on my bench over, I think it was, ended up being Livramento as well. Did you sort of favour the defender in this sense, or were you not sure if Brozier was going to get the start, or what was the sort of thought process behind, putting him before Brozier?
It was exactly that, El, in regards to the start. We've had a bit of injury news lately, and we are kind of on a daily basis, we're all thinking who's got COVID now, or what are the press conferences or updates going to say? And there was an orange like 75% or something over Brozier, and Liver, I think he had a gash in his leg or something along them lines. So you did expect him to play. So that's why I put him first, because I thought he was going to get minutes. Now, even if he did get minutes, and even if he got me like 1 point, 2 points, whatever it was, I was thinking that'd be good enough. So it was really a tricky one. That's why I kind of played it safe. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for me. But lesson learned, I suppose. I don't know. How do you boys see it? Do you think that if you've got a striker, it's best to have him as your first choice? And because if a clean sheet goes, that's it. You've lost the points. What's your thoughts on it?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I obviously, when I made the mistake, Rafinha had Chelsea, so I just thought, Leeds would show up at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea would roll over them. So maybe it was a little bit naive of me, because obviously Rafinha's on penalties and that sort of stuff, so you never really know. But maybe it's sort of time to favour the attacker a little bit, because as you say, it just takes one goal, and your defenders probably aren't going to have too much of an opportunity to get your points, whereas the attackers, they've got pretty much 90 minutes to show what they can do, don't they? So that's sort of my piece on it. Jack, I don't know what you sort of think.
I think defensive assets, unless they're from one of the top teams, on your bench, I'll be putting attackers first, I think. Just purely because if you don't think they're started, they've got a tough fixture, you just never know what might happen. Especially some of these guys coming into form randomly and appearing off the bench and scoring. I think from defensive one, I won't be putting them first. Like Liverer, for example, they're probably going to concede at the moment. So if he's going to be your first one, you're probably going to put him down the pecking order and put an attacker up there for sure, I reckon. A bit like you maybe should have, El, in respect to yours. So yeah, I go unless they're in the top four, and I don't know why they'd be on the bench unless you've got a really good selection. Unless you've got a few to choose from. Like Chelsea are conceding, but if you've got a Chelsea asset, they're more likely being looking for attacking returns, aren't they, from a defensive point of view? But yeah,
and I think that's a good point though, Jack. That under usual circumstances, I would have done it. But I think because of how the games are and how things are at the moment, postponements and injuries and things like that, it did make me throw caution to it. But I think under normal circumstances, he probably would have been first in line in that respect. I mean, Dennis wouldn't have been on the bench for one. He'd have been on the pitch. So, and then probably had Brozier as then my first pick. So I agree with you, mate, 100%. That's probably the way to look at it. But there's no looking back now. I've lost the 12. There's not much I can do about it. It's just lessons learned, and I'm sure moving forward I won't make that mistake again.
You did all right, mate. You got a decent score. I think you copied the Mount one up from me as well, so I'll give you that one as well, mate. Don't worry.
I did, mate. I loved it as well.
I did want to ask you just quickly, Reedy, as well, because obviously that Watford game against Burnley was postponed after the deadline. So we spoke a lot last week about, maybe a chip or a sub or anything. Do you feel hard done by with that? Because I feel like you probably should, because I would be kicking myself if that was me, because if you'd known that Dennis wasn't going to play, Brozier or Livramento are going to be the ones that are on your pitch anyway. So do you feel a little bit hard done by there? Because I certainly would.
Not hard done by, so to speak.
Hard done by the fans.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly that, Jack. Exactly that. And I think that, from an FPL point of view, if these, I knew or I expected that these games could get called off after the deadline. I mean, you had a lot of sort of social media sort of murmurs, people saying that once the deadline hits, the game's definitely going ahead. It's certainly not the case. It literally can be called off, within the hour or something. So I would say more the fans. If the Premier League can give the fans as much notice as possible, especially coming from somewhere like Watford all the way to Burnley, it's so inconvenient. Do you know what I mean? The travel, the money, the spending. So that's it, really. If these games are getting called off after the odd FPL deadline, there's not much we can kind of do. And this is the whole point now about this bench fodder, and having a 15-man squad, and that's very much the case at the moment. You do kind of need that if you can.
Just on that topic of it, rather than chip wise, is the easy fix just to be like the UEFA app where you can have right up until the deadline? Like, so what's the UEFA one? It's right up until kickoff, or is it an hour? Or it's right until kickoff, right?
Yeah, but I think last week we talked about, on the last pod we talked about something. When I was saying that Fantasy Premier League could do something else, they should have had a contingency plan. What I kind of maybe didn't touch upon is that the logistics of the game. Now, we all play the game. We don't know the insides and outs of the game. We don't know how it's made and this, that, and the other. We know that previously, I think it was last year, game week 30, they give us unlimited transfers. So something can be done, but we just don't know what kind of tweaks can and can't be made. I think the deadline of right up until the game, Jack, would that be possible? Would they maybe introduce that? Would that then take away the integrity of the game?
Luckily, you don't have to think about that. It's you can just throw ideas wise. But if one app's doing it and another one can't, you question why it can't.
It's almost the integrity of the game in a sense that they like to have it. It's the way they make them, but the games, you get what I mean? So if they kind of start throwing in similar things or copying other things, like with the UEFA one or whatever, it kind of takes away that model of their own game. So I think it's a good suggestion. I think it's great, and it would probably favour fancy managers, but I just don't know if they do it, mate. I really just don't know if they do it. But yeah, who knows? They might do it next season, mate, and then you'll be like, listen, I told you.
Yep, sign them up. FPL headquarters, wherever you are. Get
Jack in there. Go on.
Get him in your team for these contingency plans for all the COVID crisis that we're having. But they are obviously our returns for game week 17. So now, boys, there's a fair bit to discuss in terms of the games that have been postponed. So we'll get into it right now before we touch on our transfers and our captain picks. So there's just a little bit of a backstory for our decisions and everything, if you will. The postponed games that we know of so far, as of obviously Saturday night here in Australia and Saturday morning there in the UK. We've got Man United, Brighton, Southampton, Brentford, Watford, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Norwich, and Everton, Leicester. So that is half the games. That's 5 fixtures out of the 10 that would usually be played, that have obviously been postponed as of now. But there's also little murmurs, Reedy. Liverpool have got a couple of positive COVID cases as well, don't they? So we're not too sure what's going to happen with that one. Obviously, the likes of Van Dijk missed out on all those sorts of players. So it could be up to 6 or 7 games that are postponed this week. So there isn't going to be all that much. If you've tripled up on teams like myself, I have a triple up on West Ham. Solely got them in for that Norwich fixture, and now they're not playing. So it's a little bit rubbish, but you've got to keep going with it. It's what happens, and you just got to end up dealing with it. But it's similar to last week. But really, sort of how do we handle this? Do we play the free hit? I've seen people saying they want to play their free hit for this week, for the 5 fixtures that are going ahead, just so they can make their transfers up until the deadline, just in case anything changes, and obviously so they can field a full 11, 15-man squad, whatever you want to call it. So what do you think the sort of the way to go is for this week, Reedy?
I think you've got to play your own game in a sense, and what fires you've got in your team. If you can start a full 11, great. That's ideally what you want. And if you can go beyond that, you can get a 12 men that are going to be playing 13. And, if you're lucky or fortunate enough to kind of have the full 15, then that's amazing. But that all then you kind of have to plan short term, because as we've just mentioned previously, after the deadline, anything can happen. So, you could have a bench where they're all playing, 2 games get cancelled, and the next thing you know, you only got 1 guy left on your bench, or even in your team. So, these games being postponed, I think on the list, we've got Man United, Brighton, Southampton, Brentford, Watford, Palace, West Ham, Norwich, and Everton, Leicester at the moment that were due to play this weekend. So, playing things like chips, free hits, if it works for you, because, you can get a big score from it. You can benefit from it. it's just that sort of traditional saying of free hits or any chips are best saved for double game weeks, triple game weeks, which, as we anticipate, that is definitely going to happen this season. But you know what? Each to their own. If a fancy manager wants to play his chip or her chip, go for it, because you're only going to benefit from it, to be honest with you. With a handful of players and a handful of games, you are going to score, because these games you can pick up to 3 players in each one. So anyway, yeah, I won't go round in circles too much, Jack, about this. Any thoughts from you on this one, mate?
What was the question?
He's forgotten.
What was the question? Come on, son. Come on. I tell you what, he's still thinking about that Bernardo Silva vice captain. That blunder,
I totally forgot what you were.
We were basically speaking about, weren't we? About games being postponed, games left, and any chips that kind of managers had and things like that.
Chips wise, I'm just thinking back to last season. Do you remember? I think I played a free hit because it was I think it was only like 3 or 4 fixtures on, or something.
I think Spurs played Brighton in that week. I think Spurs played Fulham or something.
Yeah, it's like game week 29 or 19 or something like that, or maybe 27. But I think that when that happened last year, I played mine. I got all excited, and it didn't work out. I didn't get a good score. I was thinking it's quite a similar scenario right now, isn't it? And it's kind of that everyone. I understand why people are thinking it, but for me, I'm still waiting for that double game week. I think for a free hit, I won't be playing now. If you can get that minimum out, like Reedy probably mentioned when he was going around in circles, then play it. Yeah, if you've got enough to get it out, then keep it as it is.
Yeah, I fully agree with what you said there, Jack. I've just brought up on screen here. These are just the fixtures so far that are going to be postponed. So you can see in there's going to be a couple of double game weeks. Brighton have got 3 fixtures in there that need to be rescheduled. And obviously they're not the most dominant side in the world, but they're obviously maybe even going to have a triple game week out there at some point. But they're definitely going to have 3 double game weeks at some stage this season. So there's definitely going to be better opportunities to play your free hit than this, I think. And obviously, as Ozspikes just said there, the danger of the free hit is that games can still be postponed, and with the free hit you can't make transfers past the deadline anyway. So I think it probably is best this week just to leave it, just to wait. Maybe take that red arrow this week that you might take, because you don't have too many people playing, which, everyone's in the same boat at the end of the day, aren't they? The 5 fixtures aren't being played for everyone. So it's not like you're singled out and, you're different. And obviously people will have more players from certain teams than others. But I think if you can sort of just ride the wave this week, maybe make 2 free transfers if you can, take a 4-point hit if you really want to, if you think it's an attacker that you're getting and that's probably going to get you a fair few points. But for me this week, I think it's definitely best to just wait, hold your free hit. And as you can see on screen there are so many games that are ready to be rescheduled. And triple Lamptey game week, as Spikes just called it there. Maybe we'll have to have to talk about Tariq Lamptey when Brighton have got their triple game week, if they do end up having one. But I think it definitely is best just to wait for this season.
Just going to jump in as well, Lyle. I'm just thinking maybe a valid point for some people wanting to play a free hit because of their mini leagues. So obviously we're playing it, I suppose, in talking about our overall, really, in terms of our performance in there and trying to improve that. But in terms of if you've got you're in a mini league and you're trying to get that manager of the week, for example, and it's worth it, or you're chasing a manager of the month. You want a couple more game weeks to play. I think it's game week 20, manager of the month finishes. But if you're chasing that and you're looking for glory, your free hit might be a good opportunity.
Just like the podcast league where Jack's chasing me. So if you want to do anything like that, then yeah, Jack's advice is pretty good there, mate.
Yeah, and obviously there's probably no doubt
that is a big thing, mate. Come on.
There's probably no doubt that someone that plays their free hit in our paid league, if someone does end up playing it, probably is going to be fairly high up there in contention for that manager of the week. And fair play, if you want your best chance at winning that $20, it's probably a nice tactical play that you can make there. But for the long game, for me, I would definitely be holding it. And obviously, as I said, waiting for those double or triple game weeks. Ozspike says he's only got 7 players this game week with 1 free transfer. So I'm interested to know the people that are here watching along live, if you can let us know how many you've got this week, how many players you've got playing, and how many free transfers you do have. I'd be very intrigued to find out, because myself, I've got 5 boys, and I've got one free transfer to make. So I'm a little bit worse off than Ozspike there, but there's probably people that are going to be, a lot better off than me. But Reedy, how many do you reckon you've got playing this week?
Oh, 9 it is for me this week so far, Hell. And I really do feel for you in regards to, having 5. It's just, what can you do? But, the likes of the Guru as well. He's in his wedding suit at the Melbourne game, apparently, isn't he? In a suit and tie. But he's got about 7 as well, I think. I had a look at his team, and you just literally just got to put in. I'd say don't panic. For one, don't panic, don't worry. These double game weeks, like you've just said there, all these games are going to get played later on the season. So just look short term, bring in who you think will get, sort of your points, use your free transfers and all the rest of it. And that's all you can really do. Well, there's not much more,
Yeah, and obviously Michael Richardson's just said, would you rather play with 9 players this week or 10 players with a -4 hit? And this comment hit is a little bit close to home for me because I am considering taking a 4-point hit and making 2 transfers just so I can field 7, which still obviously isn't, the most ideal situation. But I think obviously for this game week, as many players as you can get on the pitch, if you think that, that player that you are taking that hit for is going to manage to get that 4 points just to break even, if you think he can do better than that, brilliant. I would definitely be playing your hit because I think obviously just by common sense 10 players is better than 9, but I think it's a very fair question that you do make because there's always that risk of if if you transfer someone in and their game gets postponed after deadline, then you're left with a -4 and the same amount of plays that you'd be on anyway. So it's
that's
an interesting
and prime example is price rises last night. I was going to make 2 transfers last night. I was there on the button, like as in I transferred who I want, thinking yes, right, okay, this makes me 11. Should I do it? And I was literally like, no, you know what? We wait as late as possible at this stage. How things are at the minute, wait as late as possible. See if we can find any news out social media wise. A player could all of a sudden today have COVID and they're out the squad. That's it. You know what I mean? So you have got to play it late. It is difficult when you want to make them transfers and you want to get them players in before maybe a price rise. But I think at this point, if you have got cash in the bank and you work it out that even if the players do get a price rise, you can still make the move, definitely delay it and wait.
I think that's spot on advice there from you, Reedy. Nemanja Vidic is in the comments, apparently. I'm fairly certain that's not the actual Nemanja Vidic, unless he is an avid FPL player in his retirement days. But he says he's heard rumours that Salah has COVID. Any insight on this? And that'll probably be the final nail in the coffin for my FPL week if Salah does have COVID. Reedy is the UK correspondent and a Liverpool fan yourself. Have you heard anything reliable on this?
I have, yes. So there's 2 things. Jordan Henderson, apparently he does have COVID. Mo Salah apparently doesn't have COVID. He come back negative with the test. So
is your guy the postman that goes around to Trent's house?
No, unfortunately, I've not spoken to me to my mate who delivers the post.
You need to get onto it, mate. You need to get onto it.
I need to be on it. Definitely. But unfortunately, nothing concrete at the moment. We have got to wait a little bit later till any news comes out. It's currently nearly 10 o'clock here, so. Usually you kind of do normally see something, but the game's not till 3 o'clock, and then we've got the games tomorrow as well. So personally, I think we might not see anything today in regards to that, as you mentioned, in Salah and stuff like that. I think if it's going to happen, it's going to probably happen tomorrow.
Yeah, and obviously, even if Salah did have COVID, it probably wouldn't affect that Newcastle or Man City game because, the Leeds players didn't get anywhere near Man City. So if they've not got COVID, they'll be fine. And the Newcastle players were pretty much always 1.5 metres away from Mo Salah anyway. So there's absolutely no risk of catching any sort of COVID there. So I think, that sort of alleviated a little bit of stress for me there, Reedy. As soon as you said you'd heard something on it, I thought you were going to say Salah does have COVID. And I was a little bit scared for a moment there. But in terms of the players that are most transferred in this week, just to give everyone sort of a perspective on the moves that people are making, we've got the top 5. So Ollie Watkins, probably by no surprise, is the most transferred in this week. He's probably the budget striker that's going to be playing fixtures this week. So that's probably explains why he is so transferred in. Phil Foden He's a cheap sort of Man City midfielder, isn't he? He's not too cheap these days, but he's probably going to be guaranteed minutes against Newcastle as he's come back. Smith Rowe is a very cheap midfielder, still just sitting at 6 million, and he's one that I've got my eyes on for this week. They've got Leeds, I think Arsenal do, so that's probably going to be a fairly open game, and he's definitely possibly going to get a return there, so it'll be an interesting one to see. And then your boy Mason Mount, Reedy and Jack is the fourth most transferred in, and Lacazette is the other one. And I think that Lacazette choice is just there purely because he's one of the strikers who's not going to break the bank, that is playing fixtures as well. Obviously, Watkins is probably the better option than Lacazette. He's probably not doing too well for himself these days, Lacazette, but he did score the other week, so you never know. But I think out of those two, I'll be going with Watkins. Are you sort of surprised by any of the players that are being transferred in there, though, Jack?
No, I think they're probably about right, given the teams that are left remaining. The choice, even Lacazette, he's obviously done okay right last couple of games, but still not convinced by the Arsenal midfielder carrying that team, and the defence have been doing great. So I'm still not a fan of Arsenal. Mason Mount, I think it's a great decision in to have him. And Watkins for Villa. I think he's the one. I mean, Danny Ings is available and he's playing. I've got him in my draft, but he's probably still not up to speed and where he should be at. So yeah, I think they're good ones. I mean, I'm playing with the idea of taking Ronaldo out and bringing Watkins in, so then I can field a full 11. This week I'm in a bit more of a better position than yourself, El. I've got one free transfer, so I don't have to take a hit either. So out of the two, I'd be looking at Watkins out of them for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly good point that you make. We've got another comment. Would you take a hit for Mount or Smith Rowe? I think that's a very, very good question, because Smith Rowe would be the player that I do take the -4 for this week, because I'm fairly certain that I am going to be making a different transfer. So I think for this week, I think Smith Rowe is probably one that you can have in your team for long term as well, and Mount as well, because they're fairly, they can pop up with points in any sort of game, those two players. So I think this week it probably is worth taking the -4 for them, just because I think they've got a fairly high ceiling to get you back that -4 that you would be taking. But Reedy, what do you sort of make of that one?
I think it's a great question. You have got to slightly favour Smith Rowe just because of Chelsea's fixtures a little bit difficult. Wolves at times, the defence has been really solid. So it's a difficult fixture, of course, with Chelsea for Chelsea, especially with their defence and how untidy that's been recently. So the Smith Rowe one, not a bad pick, cheaper asset, long term, as you say, you can kind of keep him in. Been involved in the goals lately, so yeah, I'd go with that one.
Yeah, I think Smith Rowe is going to be the player that I get in this week as well. And Ozspike makes a really good point there. He says Watkins is in the first game, the only game so far that's guaranteed to go ahead. So that pretty much gives me a big green tick to make the move for Ollie Watkins, and definitely reaffirms why he is the most transferred in player for this week. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of people making a move even now for Ollie Watkins as well, including myself. But so that's a nice segue into the transfers that we'll be making, lads. So I think we can touch on them now. For me, I think I'm going to go from Mikel Antonio to Ollie Watkins, and then Conor Gallagher to Smith Rowe, which is disappointing because I've just got Gallagher and Antonio in, but I really do need players that are going to play this week. And I think Antonio and Smith Rowe for the long term are going to do just as well as Gallagher and Antonio. I think maybe even better than those two. So I think they're going to be my two transfers for me. But Ozspike's just made another fairly good point where he says Saka more nailed on the Smith Rowe and only 0.2 more. But unfortunately, that's not going to change my plans because I won't have enough for that. I've only got 0.1 spare when I make those two transfers. So it is going to be Smith Rowe for me over Bukayo Saka. But that's a very good point that you raise. And for anyone that's got, a little bit of spare cash available, I'd definitely be considering going with Saka over Smith Rowe there. But Jack, what are your moves for the week?
So I'm currently looking at Ronaldo downgrading to Watkins, obviously just because of the fixtures going ahead. And then I would be tempted, if we do hear anything about Liverpool, obviously then I'll be making some moves then, because I'll ship Henderson out if he has got COVID. If Reedy's source is correct and reliable, we'll see. But I will wait for official confirmation there. We'll go from that. We'll go from that, and then I'll make a move maybe last minute. I don't mind taking the -4 to bring in another asset who's more nailed. Smith Rowe would be a great one. Just I've got that plenty of cash in there, so especially after shipping Ronaldo out. So yeah, just pivoting and adapting to whatever kind of scenarios come up and what news we hear from the official ones. I mean, I was gutted to get rid of Son the other week, and I was trying to look to see if Tottenham, obviously it's Tottenham Liverpool, but I feel like there will be goals in there from both ends. So maybe even I don't think many people are going for Spurs assets, so it could be a little cheeky option in there to do it, but just as a bit of a wild, a differential. Sorry. So yeah, I'll keep my eye on the news, but Watkins for Ronaldo for now, I think that's definitely going to be my transfer.
I think it's a fairly astute transfer to be making as well. Just before I ask you, Reedy, we've got a question, and I'll go to you, Jack. Mo Cherry says both his goalkeepers are out. Should he bring Martinez in on his free transfer?
I think it also then depends on what the rest of his team looks like. If he's got a full 11, another 10, without the goalkeeper, can you upgrade elsewhere? Or if you are short elsewhere, then obviously you need to be bringing that free transfer in to sort out your team. But listen, I'm not a big fan of changing goalkeepers. I'd rather spend my money, that elsewhere, upgrade players, or save it for another week. Like obviously next week at Boxing Day, I think there's going to be, if you've got 2 free transfers in the bank there and you can make some moves, save it for that and go without changing your goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you make there as well, Jack. I'll be going goalkeeperless this week. So fingers crossed it's not an actual 11v11 because it'd be fairly easy for my opposition in any sort of thing to score, but I'll be going without a goalkeeper because Sanchez and Foster are both out. But Reedy, your transfers for the week, you're going to say you're not going to be taking any hits. We all know. We'll get on the podcast next week.
We got here to do these transfers for him.
All right, listen.
Round and round in circles. You mention every name.
Listen up, man. It's honestly, he loves it, Jack, doesn't he? He loves the wind-ups and the banter and all the rest of it. But, he's still behind me in the league. You got to back it up on me, mate. So, transfers. 2 this week for me, more than likely. So I'm the -4. I am looking at bringing Ramsdale in. Proper boring, that one. I'm not going to lie. But unfortunately, I've got Guaita who's not playing, and I've got Foster.
Save there.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I've got they've got Foster who's injured as well. So that's the one. Yeah, Ramsdale loves a camera save. So thinking of him. And the next one is a City midfielder for Gallagher. Gallagher out. I was just reading how Spike's comment there. Brilliant. Look good in a skirt, wouldn't I? Not. Gallagher out. Even though I could hold him because people are saying, he's worth holding, things like that. I just think I'm looking at week-to-week fixtures at the moment, and it's got to be you know what? Gundogan's taking me fancy. What do you think of that one, boys? Do you reckon he's likely to play, or?
Guru would love that one. Last season. We all remember his man crush that he had on Ilkay Gundogan for all 38 game weeks last season. I think that's a fairly good pick. He hasn't really hit the heights of last season so far. This season, but I think he's always one that can just pop up with that random massive haul, and probably fancy him against Newcastle. He could be on penalties. We're not too sure who that sort of nailed on penalty taker is for Man City, but if he's on the pitch, he's definitely in contention for that. So I personally think it's a good transfer, maybe just for the sort of 1 week thing where you see if it pays off, and maybe he's going to start playing.
I've got 3 million in the bank. I've got 3 million there. I don't know, if that's worth just keeping hold of. But for me personally, I want to attack it as, with these short amount of games or less games, so to speak. I'm going to end up with 3 Liverpool players, 3 City players, 2 Chelsea, 2 Arsenal. So if any of them games get called off, I am up Creek without a paddle, basically.
And that's just the risk, in it. That everyone's in. Everyone's, you go big on your triple ups or your double ups. You go with the form, you go with the players. But this is what COVID brings, in it. The throws it in there for everyone then to deal with, all those managers. So I think, like, going back to the Gundogan one, I think he's a great pick. Obviously comes on 45 minutes for Bernardo, gets 2 assists. Just did it the wrong way around, didn't they? Gundogan got the 2 assists and it should have been Bernardo. So just the wrong way around the other day. But I think we saw what he did last year. Things are pretty shrewd pick in there, mate. 4.5% ownership. Looking good. 7.3 is still obviously on the pricey end just because of his form last year. So he's quite an expensive asset, sort of thing. But is he worth it? Yeah.
Well, do you think that would you think that it's worth ignoring the goalkeeper one this week and actually just thinking, you know what, I'm not bothered about the goalkeeper points. I'd rather just take 2 players out of me sort of main team, i.e. Livramento and Gallagher, and then I've got a sub to come on in case I don't know, the Villa game gets called off or something like that. I don't know, because that's the one at the moment that the Villa game is the one that's likely to go ahead because it is today. But I'm just thinking, is the goalkeeper transfer, we had that question there from Mo Cherry, is a goalkeeper transfer worth actually making or not?
Only if it's your long term. Like, why did Guaita not play? Because of his finger. He got
sore finger, yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to be back in, isn't he? He's going to be back in a week, within the week. So if not,
well, I was going to take Foster out for Ramsdale, so I had 2 keepers then for moving forward.
I don't know. I'd be tempted to leave it and upgrade elsewhere, but you're the hitman, mate. So I don't want to.
Minus 8 pending.
I know you need them. I know you need to take them. So if you want to,
fair enough. Cheers, boys.
Yeah, and Osbar makes a very good point there as well. He says we'd only take hits for players from today's games, and that's probably what I'm going to be doing. Obviously, with the Aston Villa game and the Arsenal game today, I think they'll definitely be my 2 transfers for the week. In terms of captaincy, then lads, we've got a couple of minutes to wrap up here. In terms of captaincy, for me, it is going to be Mohamed Salah. I will stick the vice captain on either Smith Rowe or Watkins because of today's games, because of today's fixtures. But Mohamed Salah against the Spurs that haven't played football for 2 weeks now, I think they're going to be unfit. Liverpool are going to punish him. I can feel it. If that game does end up going ahead, which, we can all keep our fingers crossed that it does, I think Liverpool are really, really going to have a field day against a fairly tired and lethargic Spurs side, I think, personally. Jack, what's your thoughts on your captaincy for this week?
Well, what I'm going to do this week is triple check that I've put a captain's armband on a player that is playing. So I'm definitely going to put it on Salah, obviously. Like I said, they've got every chance. I do think Spurs are capable of scoring still, but by that man Sonny. But depending if he plays or not, so I don't know what the team news is looking like for Spurs. But yeah, Liverpool could absolutely smash them, and they've got it in them to do, haven't they? So. They're on form. Salah is just week by week, game by game, smashing it. So there's every chance they're going to kill it. And Trent will probably bag a screamer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I ask you, Reedy, we've got a fair few people in here, so if you haven't already, make sure you're dropping a like on the podcast and obviously subscribing if you haven't already. There will be a lot of content produced in the upcoming weeks as the game weeks get more and more, and the fixtures and the COVID news requires more attention from us. And obviously, we'll be here to analyse it all and to preview and review all things FPL and Premier League as well. But Reedy, in terms of your captaincy for this week, who are you going with?
I'm going to go away from Mo Salah this week, actually. Not because I'm going to forget to do it. I am just going to basically stick it on a City asset. I think they're on fire at the moment. There's no stopping them. You look at that game against Leeds. It just shows that, unfortunately, that was coming. Leeds with depleted injuries and all the rest of it, and City were going to spank someone at some point. I think they're going to potentially do that to Newcastle again as well. So a City player is the way I'm sort of going. It could be Cancelo or it could be even Gundogan that I bring in. I just don't know what to expect with that Spurs game. As you guys are saying, we could smash them. Or, they could come back. Conte could have a plan for that game, and you never know. Salah might not even get on the assist or score sheet. Shout out to Ali there as well, Pizza Boy, main man. So yeah, good to have him on. And in terms of vice captain for me, boys, to wrap that up, it's probably going to be, I will go for where's he gone? Watkins for me. He's the vice because of that first game that's being played. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be doing fairly similar to you there, Reedy. But that does wrap up the podcast for us just today, boys. Just before we do wrap up, I'm out of the cup now. So me and Reedy, I'm joining you with the out of the cup trophy that we've got there. Jack, did you manage to progress this week?
Oh, he's still in the cup.
It's nothing cup anyway.
I can't believe I'm still in the cup. I got 46 points, so I thought guaranteed I'm out, and 44 the guy got.
Tin Pot Trophy.
Cup
Doesn't
runs
matter.
on. Cup run is on, lads.
Yeah,
Don't
brilliant,
matter.
mate, brilliant. Just as well, just before we go anywhere, I just want to read Ali's comment now out there. Anyone got 2 free transfers and a potato of a team? So that might refer to you on that one, Al, there, mate. Yeah. So yeah, but well done, Jack. Another round for you in the cup, mate, is coming, and
that means a lot.
Flag for us boys who've sadly been knocked out.
It's all right, you know, as you say, really. Tin Pot Trophy, so it doesn't really matter. A massive thank you to our sponsor Bonus Bank, obviously, as we always say. Make sure you're checking out the details in the caption below on how to take advantage of bookie promotions. It's free to set up, and you can also receive 25% off your first premium month with our discount code. But I thank you very much all for watching. Take this game week with a pinch of salt. I tweeted out last week saying that, you know, with all the games postponed, just take it how it is. It's the game at the minute, and everyone's in the same boat. So if you have a great week, brilliant. If you don't have a great week, it's just how it is. You just gotta, you know, keep going forward, and, you know, as we always say, it is a marathon and not a sprint. So best of luck to you all. Hope all your FPL dreams can come true in game week 18. Let's hope that not any more fixtures get postponed. Take care, stay safe. Bye for now.